Mail call.
What we get? What we get? What we get?
The mail. I got a book for you.
Yeah.
What do we got here?
Ooh.
Hey, we got a letter from Big Internet. Congratulations on your 39 views. Here is a check to use as you please. We can get a higher definition camera. It's the PC Pop Culture News Show. Hello everybody, welcome to the second installment of the PC Pop Culture News Show. I'm Peter.
And I'm Chad.
And we will get right into things for you, starting off with comic books. Last week we talked about a discussion on the big company crossovers. We talked about some indie books last week. This week we're going to get into some big crossover events from the major two companies, being Marvel Comics and DC Comics. A theme throughout the show, and we're going to sound off at the end, is the concept of a shared universe. But getting into the specifics on these crossovers, every summer, the big two companies do a major crossover. It involves all their titles. It bleeds into the individual books, and then there's a core set of books. So you can read that core set of books. That is the crossover event, and it should make sense to you if it's well written. And if you already collect the other books, you are still continuing your regular story, but the big crossover event will bleed into them a little bit. And so your regular story should make sense, and it has a tie into the big event, which makes it fun for everybody if done right, and you shouldn't have to buy extra books than you normally get unless you do want that core series. I read them all. I keep them in a separate box. Some of them have been super fun. Some are a little muddy. But it's one of those that got me into comics in the first place, being the original Secret Wars back in the day. I picked up an issue at a garage sale. It had all the Marvel characters in it. It was super cool. I studied it, and the rest is history. Just fell in love with comics at that point. Marvel recently did a Secret Wars where they took all of the characters from the different realities, put them together, and then now that storyline has ended, they've dispatched. So you have a Marvel Universe that has Old Man Logan in it, and X-23, and 4 different kinds of Spider-Mans. And this year's is something that Chad touched upon briefly last week, being a big Hydra-oriented crossover.
I think it's a great idea. I love Marvel's big events. I love the new Secret Wars from 2 years ago, though it's funny that you should mention well written, because there were some parts I didn't get because I've never read the Ultimate Universe. I had no interest in that, but it was interesting to get introduced to it. So for all the fans out there that are getting upset that Marvel's taking a chance at doing something different, well, you can go be butthurt somewhere else, because I'm really looking forward to this read. I'm looking forward to the other people that are going to join that Hydra clique, and I look forward to reading each issue of that this summer.
Yeah, people are very upset because Hydra is a Nazi-based group in the Marvel Universe. But hey, get over it. This is a common theme with wrestling too. Listen, get over it. They're the bad guys. They have to be oriented with bad things. Mm-hmm. So don't worry about it. Woohoo, Captain America. He said Hail Hydra in his book a few months ago, and he's a part of it. And a friend of mine just made the joke online that Hydra is the Bullet Club of comic books right now, because the big teases on all the covers is what other members of the Marvel Universe are secretly Hydra all along, or are Hydra now. It's fun to see that pan out. Enjoy it. Relax. Enjoy the ride. Every time Marvel makes a change, or any of the companies, people get worried. They're very protective of their properties, which you get the same thing with wrestling fans. It's things we grew up on, things we're attached to. So you want to see things evolve, but not too much. But they need to evolve to keep it interesting, and things will always change back if it's not working out. And that's where you have a Spider-Man, multiple ethnicities of Spider-Mans, and a female Spider-Man, and Spider-Gwen, and things like that. You have a female Thor. Thor's still around. He just gives him something to do with his life for a little while instead of the same exact stories. It gives a new take on the character, a new version. It keeps it interesting. Marvel's been brilliant with that, because any press is good press. So they make a big change. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's talking about the Hydra crossover. How Captain America, how could you do that? But everybody's going to jump on because of this. It's going to help sales for them, and things will get fixed in the long run. If they don't get fixed, then they're just going to get more interesting, which makes it more fun for us people that are actually regularly reading it. So to the internet trolls who get sad out there, how many people that are commenting on these stories and are upset by these stories actually read these stories, or are they just
Probably
staying up
not
with the
many.
news? It's not like Marvel has to worry about the sales dropping off from the people that aren't reading the book anyway, and just gotta get angry about it. And DC recently did a reboot to try to fix their universe and their continuity, and they have done a really good job at keeping a couple things separate. But now, and this is something very important to me, that we'll get into legacy numbering, I promise, in a couple minutes, but having things be legacy, having things be canon, if your books are a scattered mess and something important happens, it doesn't mean anything.
Like
so
Marvel.
who cares? If you're not changing the landscape, who cares? DC dropped the ball big time with their reboot a couple years ago, where Superman, he's new to everybody. Nobody knows who Superman was. And everybody's new. Everybody's finding things out for the first time, except for Green Lantern nudges Green Arrow. He's like, hey, remember that road trip 10 years ago? It's like, well, you guys just met. What? Make up your mind. What story is this? So they kind of dropped the ball with that. But something that does have meaning right now, and I hope they pull off right, is that at the end of their relaunch of the new systematic universe, a character found a Watchmen pin, which means that they're going to find a way to work the Watchmen in. Find a way to work the Watchmen into their main canon universe. Is this a good idea, or is this pooping on a legacy?
Well, I'm more of a Marvel guy, and the Marvel universe is a mess, but I like that mess. As far as DC goes, I love the Watchmen. I'm not really big into DC, and even when they did the Power Rangers crossover, that couldn't even hold my attention. So hopefully this does.
The importance of storylines does hinge on having a consistent universe, and I do miss legacy numbering. I briefly touched upon it last week, and it's something that means a lot to me right now, having thought about it. Yes, number one sell, but go ahead, put a big number one on there for a new storyline. I miss legacy. I don't think that any business is all about the quick buck, especially when you're in the stock market. I don't think that comic books should be about the quick buck. I don't think wrestling should be about the quick buck, because you have fans that have stuck with you for decades and are going to continue sticking with you. And you'll have fans that come and go. I mean, sure, there's going to be surges and the waves are going to go down, but you got fans that are going to stick with you. You got to take care of those fans. And especially when you touch on something really cool in the comics, something awesome happens, fans want to backtrack and find out how and why. And if you have legacy numbering, you can say, oh, okay, this was the first issue of the new story arc where this really crazy stuff is happening, but the villain in this was introduced back in issue 198, and I'm going to get that because we're currently on issue 305. But if you're on issue 2 of 6, and the character was originally introduced in issue 3 of 8, back in another decade of another storyline of another short run, how am I going to go to a comic book store and support that comic book store by way of back issues, or go online and support an eBay seller knowing which issue I want, or sifting through the bins at a convention and look for that key issue? You can't. So I think not having a legacy numbering system of some sort in some corner of the book is killing a back issue market. I think it's bad for fans. I think it's long-term bad for the companies, and escalating, because if you got back issues shooting up in value, people are more likely to invest in your newer issues. They're more likely to care. And I would love to see a legacy number system come back. Do you have anything on that, or you just like the stories? You read digitally, right?
Oh, I read digitally. I could give a crap less about what you were saying, but I'm going to play devil's advocate here, and I actually kind of agree with this, because I collect action figures, and a lot of people invest money in action figures, and the second something's no longer on the shelf, they decide that it's worth triple its value. So I don't care about the resale value. I understand your point, but I don't want to have to pay $300 for something that was originally $20. Maybe $5, $10 more. I can be kind of cheap. I can be kind of frugal in that when it comes to my wrestling figures. But still, I don't think it's DC or Marvel's responsibility to care about how much your collection's worth.
I'm not saying collection. I'm talking back issue sales at a comic book store.
See, I don't even go to one, so for me, it's a moot point. Sorry, guys.
For me, it's a community, and I would like to see the companies taking care of the comic shops, taking care of Diamonds, taking care of the fans, taking care of the artists, the writers. And I think that is something that we've kind of gotten away from. But the creative end of that, we will talk about some other time. That's pretty much what I've got for the comic book stuff. Wrestling?
Well, with wrestling, Randy Orton's his comments echoed throughout the wrestling universe about dives. Some people agree, some people disagree. What I found interesting, though, was that Ryback, of all people, agreed. And I figured Ryback would probably not like Randy Orton, or not like a John Cena because they are the top people that pretty much destroyed him. But Ryback pretty much said along the same things that he sees indie guys tearing their bodies apart. That he sees a lot of inconsistency on what hurts a wrestler in the match versus what doesn't hurt them. I honestly believe that. Well, you know how I feel. I don't like the fact that indie wrestlers are doing 3,000 things at 100 miles an hour, and you're seeing more injuries. You're seeing I feel like every other week somebody gets injured or somebody that we care about, like Finn or Seth Rollins. Or even Braun Strowman, a bigger guy. How the hell is he getting injured?
They're getting hurt doing basic things. You can get hurt doing, like I said, a chop, to me, it hurts as much as a backflip, if not more. But I mean, Ryback, yeah, Orton, yeah, and you see videos of indie guys having fun with it. The indie guys do have to work harder to make a name for themselves. Ryback's coming from another place where he came up through Tough Enough, which I myself wasn't Tough Enough, season 2. You can see me in Las Vegas, a couple of clips, but I didn't make it to the house. Little Pete Fun time for you out there. I didn't do enough flips. But it was interesting. Interviews took place in a boxing ring. Taz and JR did the in-ring interviews. It was really neat. I was in a holding pen most of the day. Just a really neat opportunity to see backstage at how reality shows work. Well, Ryback himself came up through that, and then through like an NXT type thing. And he had a makeover and a change because he had a cowboy gimmick when he started. And all the respect to the fact that staying that jacked is a lot of work. And you can say what you want about supplements that'll get you there, but you have to, as a guy who's a hard gainer, trying to maintain his muscle mass, I have to eat all day. So I can't imagine that coming in at 60, 70, 80 pounds heavier than me, what Ryback has to consume. So the feed me more is not just a gimmick, that is eating. That's what the dude's got to do. You got to hit the gym, and it's hard to do on a wrestling schedule. But he is also a giant jack dude stepping into the indie ring with a WWE history, and he doesn't have to do much. If you're Jake the Snake and you walk into the ring, you have to roll a snake out of the bag, put it on a guy, and the crowd goes nuts. He doesn't have to do a darn thing. A honky-tonk man can go out, hit a guy with a guitar. He doesn't have to do a darn thing.
But they did those things to start out with, and then they became popular.
Right. But you're a Joe Schmo indie guy. You go in the ring, you hit a guy with a head with a guitar. Is the audience going to go nuts? You put a snake in a guy. Is that it? The audience going to go nuts and go tell their families about it?
Well, no, but you have to do it in succession. And it's funny because this kind of relates to your back issue thing. If wrestlers keep doing things that are over the top. Don't get me wrong. I love my indie wrestling. I love Evolve. And sometimes I feel guilty watching these guys almost kill themselves. But if they keep doing these things, people are going to want to see more. It's going to reach a breaking point where everything's going to be like CZW, and nobody lasts longer than 3 or 4 years. It's shortening or cheapening the value of their careers.
I can see that in a way, but that's also the price they're paying to hopefully get a break. Now,
look at a break.
Next not included. If you got half a brain and you're in there and you're doing this stuff to get attention for yourself, then you will be smart enough to have character and charisma. Not just smart enough, but it takes some genetic talent for the charisma part. But you can have enough character and charisma to get the attention with the high flying moves and be able to tone that back and draw people in with your story and who you are.
Kind of like Daniel Bryan, who can't wrestle anymore.
He wasn't even a high flyer, though.
Yeah, but he worked a very, very stiff very Japanese kind of style.
He worked very hard. But if you got to build that, and then you'll get your break. And if you don't get your break with the big time, then yeah, you're going to wear your body out, and then you're going to quit wrestling that way. So it comes down, guys. I say do your flips, get some attention, don't overdo it, but definitely work on your character, work on your charisma, and do these things at the same time so that you don't have to do the flips forever, because you're not going to be able to do the flips forever. And make the flips mean something. A big meaty part of Ryback's statement was that indie guys, not knowing how to sell a punch. So indie guy gets punched, he keeps going. Whatever, takes a shot and they keep on ticking. And then they take a 450 splash and they keep going and keep going and keep going. Do make it mean something. And I know a little spaghetti-armed guy is going to sock me in the jaw in a real fight. Probably not going to hurt. So a spaghetti-armed indie guy is going to sock me in the jaw. I'm probably not going to sell it that hard. I'm going to make him work a little harder than that. But use your psychology. Be smart. And there's two kinds of psychologies. There's a good guy versus bad guy grudge match type thing you can use, or a lot of the indie shows, you don't have a chance to tell that story and build it up like you would on TV. So it's a competitive match, and treat it like that. Like you're stepping into the Olympics, but it's professional wrestling. Have a nice competitive match. Do your holds and reversals. It doesn't have to be just total wang bang showmanship. You know, if you got the main event and it's for the belt, and you guys have been fighting a long time, and you've got to up that game for that particular match, well, then do it. You know, pull out some of the stops. If that's your pay-per-view, do it. But don't kill yourselves every match, guys. They're right about that, but at the same time, entertaining.
Well, before we end this segment, let me give you an example. I watched SmackDown 2 weeks ago, and they had Fandango and Tyler Breeze take on the Usos. And let me tell you, I was upset that Breezango didn't win because of how entertaining they were. They had a lot of personality. They didn't do very high-risk maneuvers. They didn't do anything like that. Whereas the Usos, yeah, they go on the top rope, and they do super kick after super kick after super kick after super kick. But I remember more of that match from the angle of Breezango than I do of the Usos. So, to me, if you're talking about what sells for a wider audience, I think the acrobatics are nice. I don't think they make people stay. I think character makes people stay, and storyline makes people stay to professional wrestling. Yes. Unless you're a diehard wrestling fan, because I'll watch stuff from like the 50s and 60s and still be just as entertained as if it was today.
Well, yeah, be smart with it. If I went up to somebody on the street and said, hey, tell me about Don Morocco, or tell me about Captain Lou Albano, I could tell you who people are going to be more familiar with. And Captain Lou never did a single flip. I'm willing to wager. It's possible that he pulled out the old Captain Lou double-decker.
He was Mario. He had to jump or something, right?
If you can call that jump in the credits, yeah. But yeah, get that character, get that charisma, because that's what's going to get you over, man. Be smart about it. And heading over to regulation TV stuff. I did check out the first installment of Twin Peaks. I watched the whole original series. I had watched the Fire Below Segway. It was interesting. It was like they took Lost and put it in a blender with Twin Peaks and added a dash of horror. Like Chad said, he's like, oh, do I have to watch the first season to get any of the new stuff? It doesn't matter. You're not going to get any of the new stuff. It's just weird. It still doesn't have the heart that it did, but it's still, I enjoyed it. So I say if you like the old one, check it out. If you're just into weird stuff, you don't necessarily need to watch the whole old series. I would say maybe read up on Wikipedia, then check the new one out. If the new one entertained you, double back and watch the old one and just hammer through it if you got a lot of time on your hands. But to me, it was worth checking out. Coming to Hulu. If you're down with that, I personally don't have cable. I run through Hulu and I run through Netflix. Some stuff coming up on Hulu is going to be the Underworld movies. Triple X State of the Union. On June 13th, the new Ninja Warrior season begins. Last Action Hero, which I loved as a movie. Do you have a feeling on that?
I had all the action figures. I have the DVD. For some reason, it's always in full frame. I really wish whoever was in charge of releasing that would get on top of that and give me a widescreen release, but yes, I love that movie.
I thought it was cheeky. I thought it was fun. I like Arnold. I like every element of that. The gags were great. The soundtrack was cool. Swim from Fishbone. I used to put that on repeat while I sat at my drawing table and just jam out to it all night. Really cool tune. Legally Blonde 1 and 2 are coming. The Mechanic is coming, and the Ace Ventura movies are coming. And you mentioned about Saul.
Better Call Saul. Well, I am a heavy iTunes user, and I subscribe to the show. I was very disappointed to see on Tuesday that I did not get a new episode of Better Call Saul, and for some reason, they decided just to re-air the previous episode, so we have to wait another week. I'm not sure why this is. If any of you know, please comment, or at the end we'll give you our Twitter handles, and you can let me know. But I'm hoping it's not because it's the season finale. I really hate the fact that we get maybe 6 or 7 episodes or 8 episodes. I wish we'd get 10, maybe 22, possibly being greedy. That's fine. But yeah, that really pissed me off.
So that's it for me for TV. I do want to check out American Gods. I'm hearing good things, and I have it in the queue to watch. I just haven't had an opportunity to yet. But let's see. Okay, so going on. Movies. I was planning on banging a couple out this weekend, which I did. I would like to say I saw Guardians of the Galaxy. It was super enjoyable. I liked it just as much as the first one. I thought it was really well handled. Not going to go into any plot points because I'm going to let you guys enjoy it. It had just as much humor as the first one, though. Very enjoyable. Very enjoyable. I do have one gripe, and it's not even with the movie. It is the Marvel opening montage where they show the characters.
Yeah.
It was a comic book flipping. Very cool. Hey, neat. It's a Marvel movie. It gave you the little goosebumps of, hey, a Marvel thing's coming up. Same way the Lucas thing comes up and it gets you excited for Star Wars. But now, it's like, bah, 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 and it's big and flashy and super digital effects and it's moving pieces. And to me, it's a little pretentious. They're just like pushing your face. They're like, look how awesome all the Marvel movies were. We're awesome and we're great. At some point, the bubble's going to burst, and the Marvel movies might not be so awesome, and then you're going to kind of look like jerks just saying, hey, look how awesome we used to be.
Their stuff.
It's kind of cool looking, but I liked the old flipping the comic book page, paying tribute to the fact that they came from the comic books.
They did that for the animated shows, too.
Way less
or
pretentious.
for the animated movies, they had the flipping, so,
I got excited. I like the flippy thing.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
The new one's a little pretentious. So, I saw Pirates of the Caribbean. A lot of people didn't like anything after the first movie. First movie probably was the best one. The movie before the one that just came out was probably the worst, the one with the mermaids in it there. And on the overall, yeah, probably was the worst. And the new one is downgrades a little more too, I think. It is, if you're not a big fan of the franchise, don't bother seeing it. But if you are, definitely check it out. I know a lot of people out there like Captain Jack Sparrow as a sexy, handsome, smelly character. He's a little bit of a lady bait. But for me, I feel the same way I do with the Harry Potter movies or the Lord of the Rings. It's what people say about pizza, that even when it's bad, it's good. So it wasn't a bad movie. It wasn't a good movie.
It was the movie.
It was the movie. And for me, I love the universe that they've created. I like the creatures. I like the monsters. I like how they keep coming up with different types of ships and different demons haunting these ships. I think all that stuff is great, how they're incorporating all this. So for me, like Harry Potter's a magic universe, this is a pirate and a water universe. Any chance I can get to glimpse into that universe, I appreciate. So for me, well worth the money to go check it out. I enjoyed it as a glimpse into the Pirates universe. I think they could even go on without Captain Jack Sparrow as a character, but he's definitely the moneymaker. So they probably never would unless it was a series of straight-to-DVD after Johnny Depp decided he was done with the franchise. So for me, Pirates, if you're a fan of that universe and you think the visuals are stunning like I do and you like to just could look at it all day, I felt the same with Transformers. No matter how bad the movie is, I could watch giant robots fight each other all day. Don't matter. So I'm a fan. I liked it. That's it for me. Not a good movie, but a good look at the Pirates universe.
Well, I did see a movie too over the weekend. I saw the new Alien movie, Alien Covenant, and it was phenomenal. And for all you people out there that complain so much about Prometheus and how much you hated it, well, guess what, you big jerks? You're going to have to watch it if you haven't, and you probably want to watch it again even if you didn't like it. Otherwise, this movie is not going to make a lot of sense. So, I told you Prometheus was awesome. It was. And now Alien Covenant is out, and that's also awesome. And if you don't like that, I don't care.
Same principle for Prometheus with me. I think it was visually stunning. One of the first Blu-rays I bought, and I just let it play. Mm-hmm. And I actually hammered through. I watched the editor's cut of Alien.
That really makes a difference.
And Blade Runner back to back.
Oh, really? Blade Runner?
Yeah, because it ties in. And it did. It all tied in very well. I enjoyed them all.
How does Blade Runner tie into Alien?
Androids. What do you think's going on Earth? Why the androids are up in space?
I'm going to have to watch Blade Runner again. I just thought it was confusing.
So fun. Blade Runner's one of those movies, and there's a few like that, where Ghost in the Shell is the same way. I've watched it 100 times, and every time I finish watching it, and you asked me to tell you anything about that movie, I couldn't tell you a thing. I was like, I don't know what it was about. It was a thing. But when I watched the three in succession, and having done some reading, I guess, beforehand on the tie-in to being a cohesive universe, going back to, even unintentionally, I'm going back to the shared universe concept, mm-hmm. that it totally can work, yes. And it has the ribbons that tie throughout. So there, yeah. Watch all three in order, take the whole day, do it. For me, Prometheus, visually stunning. even just on the fact that they take big, bald, pale dudes and make them look awesome, it gives me something to aspire to.
It really does. And, we did mention the Dark Universe, which I didn't know anything about until you actually brought it up. So I got myself all excited like I normally do, and I decided to take a trip to the local Walmart, and I bought the Mummy gift set, which comes with the Mummy Returns. The third one, I can't remember the title. I don't think any of you can either. And the Scorpion King. So I watched the first one with the missus, and I loved the first movie. This is really embarrassing too, I didn't even know that it was a remake of the 30s movie, which is really interesting. So now I'm very excited to see the Tom Cruise movie, because normally Tom Cruise is on, and I'm like, I don't know. But I'm very excited. I'm a huge fan of shared universes.
So am I. So for those that don't know, the new Mummy movie, Tom Cruise with a female Mummy movie, is kicking off what's going to be a shared monster movie universe, which is going to be by way of Universal, who is famous for the classic monsters, being Dr. Frankenstein's monster and the Mummy and all those golden oldie monster movies. So they're kicking off a new shared universe called Dark Universe with the new Mummy, and we don't know what they're going to do as far as Easter eggs, or if there's going to be some ribbon that ties it all together in the new Mummy movie, but apparently that's where it starts, and it's going to keep going, and seems like it's going to be leading to one big franchise movie with all these characters in it. So excited. So that's something that could be potentially very awesome. Well, might as well keep going on the shared universe thing since we're deep into it. Initially, the concept of a shared universe is something that comic books in a way always had. So all your Marvel titles, DC titles, they coexisted. And Valiant back in the day was very good at it too. But New Valiant, I'll tell you, shared universe fine. Your numbering system, please clean it up, because I can't keep track of which books I've picked up, which ones I'm picking up, and when I get a little pile, I don't know which storyline to start with. But that was earlier. So, shared universe, you have the characters can bump into each other on the street. So, Punisher lives in New York, Spider-Man lives in New York. At any point, they can intersect.
Hey-o.
You get the big event where somebody's attacking the moon and all the characters coexist. They can go up there and they can do that. Now, that kind of is hurt because you have Deadpool in every title. He's, Wolverine back in the day, he's in every title. How's he find the time to do this? How is Howard the Duck hanging out with the Avengers on the moon? And he's also under the Earth with the Fantastic Four, and he's on Jupiter with the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Doombots.
So, Howard the Duck Doombots. So, comic books is kind of fallen off the shared universe thing, but everything else is jumping on. And Marvel obviously showed everybody, hey, look, you can make a lot of money doing shared universes with your movies. So they started with Nick Fury tying all the Marvel movies together, which even if that didn't pan out and sales went well, it was still great Easter eggs for us fans.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go into Disney's doing it with their animated movies, and it's fan theories it starts off as, and then sometimes it's confirmed, sometimes it's not, but it's too awesome to be coincidence. So Disney was one where from Frozen, Anna and Elsa's family left on a ship. That ship, they say, is the ship that the Little Mermaid found, and she got a bunch of her treasure from. And then that also her parents are the ones that shipwrecked on the island in Tarzan, and are Tarzan's parents. Which the director, I believe, has confirmed. So those three movies are tied together by way of Frozen doing that with Easter eggs.
I don't believe that.
Look it up. I'm pretty sure the director said that.
You Google enough stuff about Disney, you'll find yourself in a weird space in no time.
That weird space is sometimes very comfortable.
Just look up Zootopia and fan theories about why there's no fishes.
I will have to. They're not underwater, though.
There's also birds missing from that universe, too.
But anyway.
What do they eat?
I like fan theories. I like to read them up after I've studied the movie. Going back to it, we have shared universe for that. I remember an original kickoff for the shared universe. We talked about the new Alien, the Prometheus, and the Blade Runner having a shared universe. I remember when shared universes wasn't a thing, and Easter eggs did start appearing back in the day, and you watched, I think it was the second Predator, when he's going in his ship, hanging skulls, and there was an alien trademark skull in there, which was a fanboy moment for everybody because these shared universes didn't exist. And it was maybe Alien Predator, Alien Batman did exist in Dark Horse Comics, who had the rights to the movie characters and was allowed to integrate them a little bit, but nothing like that on the screen. So that was a big moment for just a little Easter egg. And now we're kind of getting the real life that from a lot of these movies. So we got it with those. And are you familiar with the Hasbroverse?
Hey, if you're going to tell this brony that My Little Pony is going to interact with Transformers, I'm all about it, but no, I have no idea about that.
There is, I'll believe it when I see it, because, you know, the best laid plans, you know, may not come to fruition. But the idea being G.I. Joe didn't pan out well, Transformers is doing well, Hasbro's got a lot of properties, so they're thinking of making a shared universe movie with Transformers, G.I. Joe, Micronauts, and a bunch of Mask, M-A-S.
Oh, wait a minute, so no My Little Pony?
Ponies could work into it. I mean, you know who made it work? Lego. Lego worked every kind of thing into their Lego movies. So really, you might be fretful, but you can totally make it work. So that is an idea for a shared universe movie coming out. Again, starting with everybody watched Marvel movies making money hand over fist. Now they're trying to do it. But for me, still collecting action figures. I take a lot of mine out of the package, and I set up dioramas and play scenes, and I have a lot in package because I'm out of space on my surfaces. But for me, something that would have been great if I was a kid and I was rich, or I'm adult and I'm rich, was the idea that the 3.75-inch toys coming out and having everything. That you could have G.I. Joes interacting with wrestling guys, interacting with... the G.I. Joe series even had one of the Mask figures released as a G.I. Joe member in that series. And you got your Marvel figures, so the fact that I could have Duke jump into outer space with Roadblock and the Guardians of the Galaxy. I even have my Captain America I do have with my G.I. Joes. He's beating up a his tank. I think that's awesome. I wish something like that was around when I was a kid. Seems like we're seeing less of the 3.75 figures in the store. Everybody's going back to pretty exclusives.
However, the figures are starting to be 6 inches again, which is a big selling point for me because I am a huge wrestling figure fan. However, how did you make the wrestlers interact with the G.I. Joes? Because the Ultimate Warrior's arm was probably the same size as their torso.
Just like real life. Yeah, so it totally works. But, so the idea of the shared universe amongst toys, I think was great. You do see the property crossovers now with like the little cute type of figure of the flavor of the month that are coming out. There's the Funkos. Before that was like the Mizcos. Before that. But it is nice because you can buy them in the series and have your different favorite properties together. You can have Doctor Who chilling on a shelf next to a Warlock from whatever. So a lot of these movies crossing over, I think it's a great thing. I think the comics crossing over is a great thing. Even in wrestling, it keeps it interesting because when you had WWE and WCW and you had a guy jump ship from company to company, that was a major moment. It was really cool. And so in that, it's not a shared fictional universe, but they do share the legitimate universe that we exist in. And that magic was lost when WCW went under. But now you have NXT pulling up guys from the Indies, so you can see these guys that we know from the Indies, from Japan, and see them appear on NXT or on Raw. And it's suddenly exciting again because you have people you're familiar with. Or guys within that WWE's own universe of NXT come up to Raw. So Shinsuke Nakamura, he shows up on SmackDown. Super exciting moment. The way they handled that was cool. And so you can see guys like, there's a few I would still like to see come up that I feel like would enhance WWE's product, and WWE could help these guys be a little better with Kenny Omega, with the Briscoes, who totally should be with Bray Wyatt, and elevating his character, and he's elevating their characters. I think all that should be happening. Those are some guys I'd like to see come up. There's a small handful, but at the same time, I do like to see these guys work in the Indies, work in New Japan, work in Ring of Honor, and elevating those companies. But there's a few guys I'm ready to break through. But with the internet, I love seeing that it is kind of one shared universe. So you have New Day talking about the Elite and the Bullet Club guys, and they're having Twitter wars back and forth and sharing this real universe we're in. It keeps it interesting. It keeps it fun. And the wrestling world and the real world, anything really can happen. I love being on the edge of my seat for some of this stuff. Is it overwhelming you, or do you appreciate it?
It's not overwhelming to me. I mean, it makes things that I wasn't interested in. Like when I was a kid, I loved the Universal monsters. So when I found out that there's going to be some cross or commingling, that really made me excited. And I literally did buy that Blu-ray set after we did the first podcast because I was like, I need to catch myself up. However, for the indies, there kind of is a shared universe with WWN, the World Wrestling Network, because they handle Evolve and other properties. So you do get to see, they have one huge weekend, I think, where they have a few different promotions co-mingle. As far as the comic books go, I'm used to that. I'll never forget the first time I was watching Iron Man. At the end, there was a little snippet about the Hulk, and it blew my mind. And it will never get old for me when those kind of things happen. I did not know about the Predator 2, but when you mentioned Predator 2 and you were talking about Danny Glover, I was like, oh, so that movie about baseball that he was in with the kid there, what is that, Angels in the Outfield?
Mm-hmm.
That's part of that universe. That's where I thought you were going.
That's a shared universe, yeah. Angels in the Outfield and then Predator 2, absolutely. As well as the Lethal Weapon movies. Once he hits retirement, he goes to the baseballs.
And, that one that he was in with the blue face there. I don't know what I'm talking about.
With the Pandora planet.
No, that's Avatar. We'll throw that in there too. That's fine.
But I think it's I think the shared universe stuff is great. I like to see the commingling of properties. I love it. I mean, anything's great when it's handled well. I think there's a lot of potential there. So obviously, it's going to be a trend. It's a trend that's coming up. Be watching for it. You'll see a lot of clickbait with fan theories. Sometimes they're fun to read. Sometimes it'll ruin it for you. I do read them. Something like Fight Club. Fight Club's one of 2 movies that I watched back to back. Like I watched it. And I immediately, instead of going to bed, I watched it again. I loved it. It's one of my favorite of all time. And I will read fan theories on that all day because a lot of them are fun, a lot of them work. And it makes it so I can watch that movie again all these years later and maybe see it with a new perspective. But I will say, for a movie coming out, or a movie you've only watched in the theater and you're planning on buying on Blu-ray, maybe wait to read the fan theories or
don't read concepts. I don't read them. It gets weird.
That's why you've been surprised. There's weird ones out there too. Put your safe search on, especially when you're looking up the Disney ones.
Or wrestling ones. CM Punk, Daniel Bryan. A lot of strange stuff out there.
I don't know.
Let me tell you.
That's a universe I don't share, and I don't know if I want to.
Now, I've got all these thoughts in my head right now, most of which are just senseless. But you're telling me that Hasbro can't manufacture the My Little Ponies into some sort of war pony? All I can picture is Rainbow Dash just looking like an actual horse for once and meaning something and going into war with a G.I. Joe on her back and destroying a Decepticon.
It could happen. I'm not saying it can't.
War ponies, people. Hashtag war ponies. Please, Hasbro, make it happen.
There's his new wrestling name.
Yeah.
You're the war pony. So I think that's about it for this week. Next week, I am thinking the common thread is going to be some fitness stuff. We'll discuss a little bit of that at the end of the podcast. Me being a guy who hits the gym regularly, checked out the CrossFit Games. He does the DDP yoga, and we will tie that in. But not to bore you with it, we're still going to go over all of our regular topics. But in addition to the fitness stuff, we will also talk about costumes and the ergonomics, economics, and all that type of stuff of wearing a skin-tight suit versus a more modest costume, be it to fight supervillains, fight in a wrestling ring, or to host a podcast.
I thought you were going to talk about cosplayers.
We'll talk about cosplayers too.
No thanks.
You can check out the host company for this podcast, which is my company, publisher of my comic books, co-hoster of Chad's music, and all that stuff. CatAtomicStudios.com. If you're YouTubing, there's a link below. Even if you're not, there should be a link below in some way, shape, or form. CatAtomicStudios.com. Check it out. I do work on, I have cosplay merchandise and shirts on there that are pretty fun and witty, as well as other properties that I'm working on. You can find me personally at Comics Pete on the Twitter.
Well, you can find all my music and future projects at Recording Underwater. Just Google that on Google Recording Underwater Bandcamp, and you'll find all of our music, and all of it's free. So get your fill while you can. It's limited to 100 downloads, so once I reach that cap, it won't be free anymore. You can find me on Twitter. It's I'm at OptimusChad518. There is another at OptimusChad. That was me. I got locked out of my account, so you can follow that, but I'll never be able to follow you back because I forgot my password.
At Comics Pete, at OptimusChad518, and you can put stuff in the comments below. We will respond. We will get back to you at least until we pass that 40 view threshold. Then we might be too busy.
Yeah, get out of here, bro.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for checking it out. Take care of yourselves and take that next step.